freedoms that we find in our Bill of Rights here in the United States is something that 100% Freemasonry believes in. You have to be, it has to be of your own free will and accord to even become a Freemason. So, so Freemasonry has fought for those freedoms for other people all throughout the world, and this is really why. If you were to say, I guess, another conspiracy, I mean, if you go to like all the Latin American countries that were helped to be set up by Freemasons like Simon Bolivar and others, you know, they were trying to provide freedom, particular freedom from the Roman Catholic Church at the time that was controlling those countries. So, yeah, so Freemasonry has been involved in that, but so anyone who thinks that Freemasonry exists to try to enslave them is nuts, because Freemasonry has always fought for freedom for the people. So
yeah. That's amazing, and I'm glad that you said that. Not just coming from my mouth, coming from someone who actually is a Freemason. And, you know, somebody that I know and respect, and that's on the inside and been doing it for a very long time. So there you have it, folks. You've heard it directly from an actual Freemason. And what level Freemason have you achieved?
Well, I'm what's known as a Knight Commander Court of Honor, which is, you know, above the 32nd degree. And it means I'm basically leadership, you know, within the system. But technically speaking, from a Masonic standpoint, even though we have all these higher degrees, I've probably received, probably over 80 degrees, to be honest, from all the different Masonic bodies and everything else. But that said, Freemasons will say the highest degree in Freemasonry is the 3rd degree. And that all the other degrees are just supplemental education, and that they do go into developing moral character, but they also look at the mysteries of the ancient world. You know, everything from Egyptian mysteries to Vedic mysteries to you know, Persian mysteries, the mysteries of Mithras, you know, so on and so forth. So. And certainly Kabbalistic mysteries, alchemical mysteries, Gnostic mysteries. These are all things that Freemasonry looks at. But from a Masonic perspective, we say once you've received the 3rd degree, that's really the highest degree for everybody. And we're all on the level. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And so when I see 33rd degree Mason, what does that mean?
So it means they've gone through this, what's known as the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, which was largely developed by, it existed prior to Albert Pike. Albert Mackey was the one who really passed it on to Albert Pike. But Albert Pike's kind of considered the philosophical father of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. He's received some negative press recently. His statue was torn down, for example, in Washington D.C. He was a Southern general, but he was fighting. The reason why he was on the South was he believed in states' rights over federal control, and but because of that, he's been accused of being racist, even though he gave all the Scottish Rite degrees to Prince Hall Freemasonry, which is the African-American branch of Freemasonry that was largely responsible for fighting the civil rights in this country. And he also fought for Indian rights at a time when other people weren't. I mean, in fact, he quit his job as a general because he was being asked to put our Native American Indian brothers on the front line so they could be cannon fodder, you know, during the war, and he refused to do it, you know, and he fought for their rights as a lawyer. He actually went through the bar as a lawyer with Abraham Lincoln. ironically. They both took the bar together. So, but he was kind of the philosophical father of Freemasonry. So there's the 32 degrees. So you receive the first 3 degrees at a lodge. There's thousands of lodges all over the world. And then once you receive the 3rd degree, you can go into the Scottish Rite. It's kind of like a collective body where different lodges join together and go through those higher degrees. Once you receive the 32nd degree, that's kind of like that's as high as most Scottish Rite Masons end up ever going. But then you can receive an honorary recognition, which is Knight Commander of the Court of Honor. And from there, you can receive this honorary 33rd degree. And that honorary 33rd degree is more, it basically, it represents that you've contributed a lot to Freemasonry and to Scottish Rite in particular. Whether through your time and effort and helping out, or donating a lot of money to the organization to keep it going. It's not really, I don't think there's any grand secret that's going to change your life with it, but but they are kind of the leadership of the Scottish Rite. So.
Gotcha. Okay. So they've made a lot of contributions to the cause.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? One thing some of the books that I came across years ago dealing with Freemasonry, the fact that obviously some of the teachings seem to be metaphysical or Masonic, but also some of it seems to be dealing with the otherworldly life, like the moon and planets and space and other sentient beings could be in the universe. Was that information I read about accurate?
It is accurate. It's not overtly taught per se. I mean, but I'll give you an example. Just a couple examples that I can talk about. In the 2nd degree of Freemasonry, one of the things that we're taught is that there are numberless worlds around us. And not saying numberless planets, saying numberless worlds, which implies civilizations on those planets when it's talking about what's out there. And this was largely a quote from the Hermetic philosopher Giordano Bruno, who was burnt at the stake by the Roman Church for saying this. But it is taught within the 2nd degree of Freemasonry. Another example of this, which and by the way, all of the initial degrees of Freemasonry are really built around the teachings and the philosophy of Hermes, who of course is of Thoth or Tahuti of the Egyptians, and which you know very well. So, but that's what the degrees are based around. I mean, they have a character called Hiram, where each candidate represents Hiram, but Hiram is just if you take the Hebrew Hiram and you transliterate that into Greek, Hebrew doesn't have standard vowels, so Hiram is really just HRM, and if you transliterate that into Greek, it becomes Hermes, which is of course Hermes. So, so most that's one of the mysteries around the degrees of Freemasonry. But the 3rd degree does have a ritual drama, particularly here in the United States, where there's some of the characters in the drama are trying to escape Jerusalem, and they're trying to do it through Solomon's ship. And so they encounter the ship captain, and of course he won't let them get on the ship because they don't have Solomon's pass. But what's really significant about this, and they're trying to escape to Ethiopia from Jerusalem on the ship that is heading from Jerusalem to Ethiopia. Well, you have to remember these degrees were put together in the 1700s. And in the 1700s, there was no way to sail a ship on water from Jerusalem to Ethiopia. The Suez Canal hadn't been built yet.
Right.
So, but what had been discovered at that time by Sir James Bruce, who was a member of the Scottish Royal Society, he was the first to publish an Ethiopian text known as the Kebra Nagast. And in this text, it talks about King Solomon's flying ship and how he used to fly from Jerusalem to Ethiopia to see his wife, the Queen of Sheba. Wow. And it would describe how he would fly there in a couple hours, which would take normal people by land, several days to traverse. So, and it would describe how he, what powered the ship and what allowed him to do this flying ship. Well, this is the ship that Freemasonry is talking about. It's talking about this flying ship, and that's been in the degrees since the 1700s. So
wow,
it's so that is all a part of it. We look at it today and they're like, it doesn't seem that crazy to be talking about UAPs anymore, especially since the government has opened up some. But when you consider this was in a degree from the 1700s, I mean, that was pretty extreme. So
yeah, it's pretty extreme. And you just answered a big question for me. We're going to get into Thoth in a little bit after we get done talking a little bit more about Freemasonry and a little bit into the Templars. But the fact that he flew on this sky ship, like they call it in the Emerald Tablets, to get to the Queen of Sheba. In my book, Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, I talk about the list of incredible people that had access to the knowledge of the tablets, and which also inspired them to create a translation or inspired them to write books of their own. And the Queen of Sheba is one of them.
Yeah, so it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, and talk about inspiration. I mean, to remember too, I mean, Freemasonry has specifically focused on the writings of Hermes or Thoth. I mean, I would say more than anything else in Freemasonry, that's what it focuses on. And it has inspired a number of, most of the early astronauts, people like Buzz Aldrin and Gordon Cooper and others. They were all Freemasons.
Yep.
And it was, and many of the people who helped, not all the people. I mean, NASA's kind of controversial, especially when you factor in Operation Paperclip and the Nazis that were brought over to help make it power it. But
Werner von Braun.
Many of the astronauts, exactly. But most of the astronauts were all Freemasons that and they were attracted to it because of their Masonic background. So
gotcha. Yeah.
So there's a connection there.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And so this is going to lead us actually into it a little bit more. So Freemasonry, and I'm glad you said it. Now, these are obviously questions. A lot of these questions I'm asking you, I kind of know the answer to, but I want people to hear it coming from an actual Freemason, so that it doesn't look like, oh, Billy's just, he just wants to sell us this information to make us believe that, this is real information. Anybody in Freemasonry understands and knows this. This is how they're taught. And a lot of it's based on the teachings of Hermes and the Hermetic principles, right?
That's exactly right.
And so let's go into 100%. That a little bit.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you this: if you ever get an opportunity to go into a Masonic lodge anywhere in the world, but particularly in this country, one of the first things you'll notice in the lodge room is 2 pillars with globes on them. There's a celestial globe on one, and there's a terrestrial globe on the other pillar. And people don't, they may find it curious. It's said to represent the pillars that were in front of King Solomon's temple. But of course, the descriptions of the pillars in front of King Solomon's temple from the Bible just describe there being two spherical structures on the globes. It doesn't say anything about it doesn't even refer to them as globes. It just refers to them as these spheres that are on the top of the pillars. But within the Masonic system, you'll find a terrestrial globe and then also a celestial globe that shows the zodiac on it. And the reason for this is secretly in the ancient world, particularly in Greece, one of the names for a pillar was a herm. And it was called a herm because it was named after Hermes. And the reason why it was called a herm and named after Hermes is usually these pillars had on top of them something related to that Hermetic philosophy, the philosophy of Hermes or Thoth. And in this case, that's exactly what we see in the Masonic Lodge, because those globes literally represent as above, which is the celestial globe, so below, which is the terrestrial globe, right?
Yeah.
Which is a fundamental teachings of Hermes. Yes. So you'll find that in every Masonic lodge that you go in. You'll also find within the Masonic lodges, they have different officers, and each of the officers wear different collars with jewels on them. And but the messengers of the lodge, which is both the senior deacon and the junior deacon of a lodge, they carry rods, and the senior deacon has a rod with a sun on it, and the junior deacon has a rod with a moon on it. And or in some jurisdictions, they actually have depictions of Hermes himself on top of the rods. And this is because Hermes was the messenger of the gods, according to Greek tradition, just like these officers are the messengers within the Masonic Lodge. But more so, that sun and that moon come directly from Hermes' emerald tablet, not the emerald tablets of Thoth, the Atlantean, but just the emerald tablet of Hermes. And where it says its father is the sun, its mother is the moon. And so that's again trying to be emphasized within the Masonic Lodge. And in fact, even the reason why they're called deacons is it comes from the Greek word dekanos, which means ruler of 10. And going all the way back to ancient Egypt, the dekanos were rulers of the 10-degree segments of the sky. Traditionally, there were 36 dekanos or deacons. Each were in charge of 10-degree segments of the sky, totaling 360 degrees total, because they were measuring the sky and how it related to the earth, which went directly back to what Thoth was talking about. And in fact, if you go to, I know you've seen this at the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, when you go up and you see that zodiac that's on the ceiling, it has 36 deacons on it, because those are the rulers of the 10-degree segments of the sky. So these are all things that are preserved within the Masonic Lodge that relate directly to Thoth and go back to that ancient tradition. And it's just a way of preserving it for, again, I mean, if civilization were to collapse again, like it did during the Younger Dryas cataclysmic event, and civilization were to collapse,